at it, I just show you a couple of things in progress here. We've got my HSS Oakcaster with its, this is a rosewood necked one, just waiting to be put together. It's been oiled now. It's about as much oil as I want on it. This one's going to feature a slightly different bridge, a departure from the norm. It's going to use this truncated Telecaster bridge. Originally, obviously you can see here I marked up 2 holes, which is part of the screw holes that help me in the routing thing. And the reason I can do that is because normally then they get consumed into the bridge posts. The problem is I actually did the drilled the electrics cavity in the wrong place for some bizarre reason on this. I just drilled it too far up the body. Now it works fine as an electrics cavity, but normally it starts there. The consequence of doing that is that this bridge hole now falls too close to the electrics cavity when normally it would be back, and because of the way it shapes it would be out of the way. And as a result, I don't think it will safely hold a bridge post 12mm drill hole. So I've kind of, rather than risk it, rather than try it and risk it, I've made the decision to switch to a different kind of bridge, which I haven't used before on these kind of guitars, but it's a simple bridge with a back loader. The only downside of it is it leaves these 2 little marks either side, which I can't really change, other than that maybe at a later date I could drill them out very slightly and plug them with a little bit of oak, which is probably a prettier way of doing it, but I'll do that when I've got kind of more time. But anyway, as you can see, this one here is lining up to be the HSS, and I think by the looks of it these things may actually be the donor parts for this this guitar. So given this is the Fender, that's not able to do this with one hand, given this is the Fender leftover, which Murray has very kindly donated to the cause, I suspect what we're going to end up with is this one here as our humbucker, which will have a coil split, and there'll be a coil split on that, and then this one here and that one there will become excuse me, the 2 single coils. So it'd be interesting. It may not be what I stick with, but it would certainly be a start point, and it will keep the costs down as well, obviously, which is great, because I can then maybe afford to sell this one a little bit cheaper than some of the others. So that's that one ongoing. I've also got this one here, which is this is number 19 actually, and it's lining up to be a headless one, which has its hand lacquered neck here with refretted with jumbo frets. So this one fits beautifully, and it's drilled and ready to go. What I'm waiting for first and foremost on this is the bridge. I got a dodgy or slightly broken one from Japan, and that's being replaced. Meanwhile, Alan is very kindly going to tap and die or tap out the broken bits or the threaded bits on the bridge I've already got. So this is hopefully going to be rail hammers. Now I haven't got the rail hammers for this yet, and I'll need to wait until I sell something else before I can afford it. So this is a longer term one, but again, it's a beautiful looking piece of wood. And interestingly, I don't know if you saw the photographs, but this one began life as 2 pieces. There was a crack in it which I deliberately hit the hole blank with a hammer and snapped it in half so I could glue it back together again, but you barely could tell. It's in really good nick, so I'm looking forward to that. Now this here is the alternative neck for this one, and I'm not sure yet which is which going to go on here. This is again hand lacquered, so it's very farmhouse, right? It's not smooth and mirror shine and anything. It's just thick lacquer which has been hand smoothed as much as possible, and it's also got home painted or home filled inlays made from, I can't remember what I made it from, some plaster or resiny plaster stuff. And the reason I did that was that this was a neck that came to me from China, which was a little bit twisted, not really good enough to use in that mostly the bloody dot markers were just drunkenly everywhere, and I just couldn't use it. But I went ahead anyway, since I'd refretted it, and what I've done is I've kind of tried it out as a finished thing. So even though it's not perfect, none of mine are, because they're home built, they're not factory made, but it gives me the option, if I want to put this neck on, and this guitar actually could be saleable on overseas to the US or something with a maple neck on. So it's given me that option. There is the very slightest twist in that headstock paddle part, but it doesn't actually extend to the neck itself, so I'm not worried. It's not a problem, but it wasn't good enough for my, it'd be sort of a B stock. No, you know what I mean. It's not perfect, but it will play absolutely fine. So I have a choice of the two things. I'm going to make both necks to fit this guitar, because of the two, if I go with the rosewood one, then basically I'll end up binning this or burning it or something, just or keeping it as a fun spare for something. But it was a write-off anyway, so I'm not too bothered by it. You can see that even as it balances on there, it's just that slight twist at the end of the headstock stops it sitting absolutely perfectly, although the heel and everything is fine. Anyway, that's those. Now we have the current task underway, and as always, there's a few leftover necks which I can do something with if I want to. This one's actually in fairly good nick, but again, it's a sort of backup. This one was the most recent one, and as it says on there, it's the actual whole thing is twisted. So basically, this one was the one that just stopped me buying the maple paddle necks from China. They just haven't been good enough. Whereas I at the same time did order this one, and in every aspect it was good enough. The only downside is it has a knot in the first fret, but that's kind of immaterial. It will look fine, and when it's oiled up it will have character as well. So yeah, in terms of actual quality, those rosewood ones are still worth having, but because of the new CITES regulations, they aren't saleable outside of the UK or EU. Possibly it's hard to interpret the actual regulations, so it could be that we can't even sell them outside the EU. Now I've let this, while I was blathering on, I've let this thing warm up nicely. So we've got a lot of things to remove, and I'm going to go and rewire entirely according to my wiring diagram. So effectively technically I could cut all these off, but I may do that and re-tidy up the ends anyway, but for now I will just remove them with a little bit of a touch of the soldering iron rather than cut them, so that I start with as much wire as is possible within this arrangement. So we've got a huge blob of, a bit of an unruly blob of solder here, which evidently will contain or ground out all these pickups, but it's quite hard to remove. Ugh, right, so that gets us these ones out of the way, and this one too. Right, so I'm going to literally just carry those over out of the way so I don't muddle them up in any way, and they can sit on top of that Oakcaster over there. Then we'll unhook this one because it has to come unhooked, although it's the iron gear rolling mill, which we will reuse in this next configuration. So we'll just basically get everything undone, and then once we've got everything undone, it will just be a matter of removing the pots and getting them ready to replace. What I might do is I might just go and double check. One of the things that may confuse, may have confused Muzz actually on this, is when you use a double pole double throw, when it only technically requires the one side of the deal, can be maybe off-putting there. So worth kind of going back and having a look at how to use a two-sided one as a one-sided one, if you get what I mean. So I'm just can't run out of wire here. Cable wiring, lead. I'm using the very fine point on the soldering iron, which is quite difficult to free up large volumes of solder. There you go, it takes a bit longer, but I'd rather use that than switch between between a big fat tip when I don't need one. There's a big chunks of solder on here. Come on, undo yourself. Okay, so now we're off altogether there. I'm going to tack this one back in with two of its watsits. I'll just check this. Again, this thing is insulated, or sorry, shielded, and it goes through with no problem at all. And there's no need to have anything come through that part of the thingy. So we can keep that just on. Make sure that I don't trap the masking tape under there. There's no need to do that. Okay, so I'll just put two in for now, just in case I need to get things in and out. This is really just to stop it from shaking about. Okay, so these are all my ends that I need tidying up. That's obviously the four wire humbucker. Sorry, it's such a crap view for you. 4-wire humbucker. This is the hot and ground of the jack plug. This is the sorry, that's the jack plug. This is the grounding, and this is the bridge wire. So it's all kind of, that's all self-explanatory. And what I can do, make sure that everything's just safely tied up. Oh god, I've not been very well. So what I can do is, while we're here, just get stuck into de-lousing these components, which I don't really need to preserve anything, but I'm trying to preserve the wire because this rubberized wire is quite nice to use, so I would hope to reuse it where possible. It's nice, it is a nice quality, good old Fender. And these pots will go into the sort of universal department of spare pots, but possibly never used. So we've got an earth to the side of the switch here, which has been deliberately scuffed up for the purpose. Okay, so pretty much everything here now is going to come off. I've got my little screwdriver for removal. And as I say, we're going to do everything from the beginning according to the Fender wiring diagram, and the important areas for us to consider to really make sure we get right. I'm not going to put things back in there we don't need to reuse. The thing to get right really are two main things. One is the wiring equivalence, so we have to make sure that we know the relationship between how the iron gear humbucker wires relate to the Fender humbucker colours. Once we know that, we can just make sure that we're basically copying the right thing. And the other thing to know is the correct way to utilise a single switch, single-sided switch, as opposed to what we've got here, which is in both cases a two-sided double pole, double throw. Okay, so you can see the two rows. It only really needs one for this. It's doing a single humbucker coil split. So we don't want to keep that in there because that's going elsewhere. It's going into the reuse one day possibly department. There won't be anything wrong with these things, but you know, Muzz has decided to upgrade it with some new stuff. So, and out comes these bits. Now, I mean, I could use this switch on that one as well. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Oh lordy! Let's put that over there. Possible use. These would be reused some other time. I mean, technically I can put them in there because I may reuse them. So here we have the plate ready to go with our new stuff, and in a way that's secondary importance just now. I will get onto that, but not right now because we've got other things to do. The thing I'm going to concentrate on right now is making sure that I get this lined up to work as a extend this basically. And the trick will be, God, these are very close, look how close those are. The trick will be to reproduce this exactly, tidily. I'm not sure I've got a template knocking around that's exactly that. I have a sort of, oh, maybe I do, maybe I don't. I have, because I have a load of these. I mean, they obviously, those fit. Do they fit through there? They're exact, aren't they? So that would be an equivalent thing. So what we're looking at is how we get this exactly on the mark. Now I can look at that, or I can replace. Let's find this thing here. Sorry, I'm talking to myself as I do it, but that's typical me. Neighbours are yelling. So what we can't guarantee is that this this material here is straight, and it clearly isn't. So if we were going to use a right angle, for example, we can't even assume that this scratch plate is straight, but let's imagine for a second it is. If we were going to use the back end of this scratch plate as the square edge, I can just, for example, draw on it with my marker pen there and follow that line up. I just looking at using this as a way of keeping things as straight as possible. And then I can use this back end of this one, line it up. Now, that hole is a little bit ragged, but I can see where the springs sit. So we're going to go just to the inside of where the spring sits. And just line it up absolutely square. Now you can see that you may be able to see that from my little drawing here, the square to this, square to that isn't the same as what the foil is doing, obviously. But I'm going to draw it, continue it on up this way, because if anything, we've got to be confident, or we have to at least trust that that back edge there is in line with the plate, sorry, the humbucker, which it looked. So I'm going to take these lines I've just drawn as the best guess, and one of the ways that we can just check it, and I think you'll see that it's probably a good guess or a good version. If we go just to millimeters here, we'll go between my line and the inside edge of this curve here, and we've got 9. It would be, I would say it's almost exactly 10, as near as, damn it, 10 from there to there. And then this side is actually a little bit, that's a little bit too close. So what we could do is let's just do it with a bit of tape first. We could widen that line just a fraction, and then we'll use that as our marker. It was nearly there, but not quite. Sorry, I'm not very well. Okay, so let's take this mark out, and from the edge to there. That's on the wrong pickup slot, so let's not do that. Let's do from up here to there. Now, I've got to get this straight line again, put more right angles to the thingy. Just push it up against there. Again, I'll just take this as a guesstimate, extend it, and then double check. And it's really just so I know where to place my pickup cover template. I think that's, oh, don't worry about that. That's about it. A tiny bit. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go in by 0.5 millimeter again. Again, we can bin all of this when the time comes. So I'm going to use a ruler. Come in 0.5 millimeter. And if I want to know that this is square, then I can just double check it against the square edge, which it is. Okay, so it's all shining at me. Okay, there's exactly. So there's our mark. Sorry about the long-winded way round. Now, within that, I've now got to bring this shape down a bit. And that means positioning this. So first of all, if we look at where it sits, that is just a tiny bit wider. We don't want to use the whole of that, but we do want to use some of it. So I'm going to use the top edge of this as my guide mark, and I'm going to go out to the equal spacing of this, so it's practically just sitting within those two lines. Okay, I'm going to now draw around this on here. Okay, and I'll go around the top as well for what it's worth. And then the bottom. Importantly, I'm going to stick in the centre of what I think should be standard holes. It could be different from that, but I'll double check it. So what we've got is the external shape, which obviously isn't going to cut that big, but I'm hoping that gives me a bit of a better place to position this. So what I'm really looking to do, actually is that going to change, or am I in the right place? Okay, so I need to position this the other way up, which is a little bit rickety, but I have to kind of gauge it now visually to make sure that this little thing is exactly as far from each of those screw holes as the other side, and sitting in this case as close to the edge as possible, right, like that. Then what I really want to do is come round the inside like that and like that. Oh, and there, ladies and gentlemen, we have our new cut out. Can you see it? And if I'm going to draw some guide hatching, it looks like this. Now, right now I'm going to stop and go and do some other things for a while. I need to unplug my soldering iron too. But what I'll do in the meantime is I'll be thinking of the most efficient way to cut this out, because I don't really have a lot of good tools for this. I may cut it with a straight line and a knife, which takes a while to get through but can be effective, and as can be a little bit of work with a Dremel sanding thing to get the corners right, because they are very difficult to get that curve. But I think you can sort of see then what we're aiming to do. In fact, I could carry on and do it in permanent marker. It probably makes it even look more convincing. That's not the most precise device, which then I can't find. Sharpie. It's a bit big, but hell. So this is an extension then of the original one. So that we can fit the new single coil in the bridge, sorry, the neck position. And obviously you can see it's going to require some careful cutting out to get to where we want to be. There we are. And we'll be cutting downwards. Now the only remaining question is regarding the new pickup. If we cut downwards in that direction, is there enough material space in the route here to fit that in? And these Texas Locos come on a triangular plate. Now if there isn't enough room on this slight triangular plate, then what we end up having to do, can I bring this back? Let's move a couple of things out of the way for a minute. Yeah, so obviously our original pickup is going to be, we're going to move backwards, and I think we'll just get it in there. Yeah, we'll just get it in there before we hit the material here. Now if we did hit the edges here, then we would do a bit of chisel-y work and a bit of copper around there, or not even chisel, we could do it with a Dremel. A Dremel sander, and just but I think we'll be alright. I'd much rather bring this back towards the bridge than to yeah, I'd much rather do that. So what I can't see is, yeah, I can see. So I guess what I'm just gonna do something now, a minute. Let's see if I can do something just to make sure of this. I'm going to just kind of map out the back line of this thing, of this pickup onto here. Just making a little mark on the paper underneath, masking tape, so that we know that's the back line of the physical pickup. So I suppose I could draw a line across there with this. And the question is let's say this has got this on top here, which may not be the right cover. Probably isn't the right cover. It'll do for now. Let's say it's not quite right, but let's say that's our replacement pickup. We've got this little bit here to worry about. We've got to get this into here, and it's got to be able to fit. It's got to align with that. And it's just gonna, yeah, it's just gonna work. Yeah, I think so. Because the current one, a lot of that material, some of that material goes a little bit under. Does it go under? No, butts up against there. We've got a tiny little hook, a little lip, and then the shiny bit comes through. In this case, we're obviously going to be pushing backwards a tiny bit, but I think there's enough room. That's my assessment. Oh, the same applies to the middle pickup, which is this one here. That and the Texas Loco are close enough in shape and size to not be a problem. So over there you go, those two safely out of the way, this safely out of the way. So yeah, for those who are interested in seeing this process, sorry it's a little bit long-winded, but you know, you said you wanted to see it, so I thought I'd do it. But this is how I do it, because I have to talk and think my way through the whole thing as we go. It's never quick. So there's my two Texas Locos. Now, I'll come back to it in a little while, tidy up and get back into the soldering bit. So I'll see you in a bit. Here's a funny thing. This is just a little interlude, really. Russell Mendoza-Smith has just contacted me asking for help, and Russell bought Oakcaster, Reloved Oakcaster number 12 from me, and he takes it away with him overseas and plays overseas, And the interesting thing is, it's a kind of not this one, but it works like this, in that the neck and the body come apart like this. You gently press them together like that, and then you put your 2 neck bolts in, do it up, and away you go, ready to play. Now, when I sold the guitar to Russ, I sold him an Allen key, a hex key like this, and you know, it's pretty simple to just crank that on, go around a couple of times, stand it up. Stand it up, check it's in aligned, put it on until it stiffens up a little bit, and presto, you have your guitar, and then you string it and you're ready to play. Everything's in the same configuration that it was. He's just told me that the security people have, last time he travelled, stopped him with his Allen key and wouldn't allow him to take it. So he's asked me, he's seen that I make a version of an Allen key as a tuner device for my headless guitars, but it features basically the same Allen key, and here's the tuner from one of my headless guitars. Normally sits in a little hole in the back, and it's not used for this purpose. But so what I've said is I'll make him something, but my first thing is to check how well this works, how much force you can get into it for doing up the neck. Now, to be fair, it's not going to be anywhere near as much force as you can get with a you know, the crank handle on this, because you haven't got much turning motion and ability. But I'm just looking at this and thinking, you know what, that just about does it, I would say. I'm trying to think, even as I do this, I'm trying to think, is there a way that I can make this a little bit more robust? And I'm wondering, I may make another one. I've got a few of these old knobs here. I may make another one with a similar piece of material, and I wonder if putting a bit of a flat spot on the side here will do any difference. But to be fair, these are not, certainly these aren't the thickest ones. This one would probably withstand a bit of a flattened edge to it. I had another one kicking around here somewhere, which seems to have sort of gone, one that wasn't in use. I don't know if it was in here anyway. But I mean, just looking at it, it seems to be good enough to do the job. So I really want to be absolutely sure. So I'm just going to see if I can find any more. Where are they then? There was a whole handful of knobs floating around in here. Funny how things disappear, isn't it? There's some black ones. Well, let's just see what these are like. I don't really, yeah, they're chunkier, but I don't really want to use those because I need those for my own purposes. Well, okay, so I know that it works in principle, and what I know is that if I didn't have anything at all, I could just send Russ one of these, oh sorry, this one, and I could use a tuner, an Allen key at home for tuning my other guitar. Having done this up by hand, a couple of turns as tight as it will go, let's just have a feel how much tighter it then goes with this. Yeah, a little bit tighter. Yeah, quite a fair bit. Not so much you couldn't play it, but ideally we would have some other way. Now I'm just wondering whether there's a way of putting a crossbar in there by drilling through, and then we sort of lose the gripping part. This is a mixture of magnet in the base of here plus resin, which holds this whole thing in place. And to be honest, I don't think it would last. It may not last too long if we were doing this kind of hard, heavy duty work every time. But I do want to find something that will work for us, and given that they won't allow him to take this murderous weapon on the airplane, we're going to have to do something else. Now there's an equivalent we have here, which I think is this one here. Yeah, a little hexy thing, but again that's got even less of a grip. Now that would kind of make a nice, yeah, that would make a nice little addition instead of me hacksawing an Allen key. But of course this would be quite an expensive way of doing it, and again it doesn't give us any extra leverage unless we had a little bit of something drilled through there, but that would be heavy going. To be honest, I mean, you know, what we really need, if I was to draw it, for this we need a quick thinking as we go. Whoops. Really, we need something like that. You know, that you could do the job. You've got, there's the bolt. You know, you could get a good corkscrewy sort of turn on it, but there's no way that anyone can consider that a murder weapon for travel compared to that, of course. So this is a start, but I don't have any means of making this work better. I'm trying to think if I could drill something right the way through one of these, but then if I drill through, I don't get to anchor the thing. I could drill very near the top, and we might be able to get something through, and then sit the piece of Allen key on top of that, but it wouldn't sit very far down. But we still would. See, this is quite good. This already sits in there and doesn't turn without any resin. That's not a bad little unit. Well, why don't I try drill through the top of one of these, near the top part. I don't have a vise to hold it down, so I may have to attempt to do it kind of directly down by hand from here, which is not ideal. I wish I could somehow fit that under there. Can I? Not without this all hanging off. Anyway, I'm going to hang this back up for the time being because it's no longer needed. But there you go, that's my challenge. So first solution for us, you can have one of these that will do the job. Nobody on an airplane could think you're going to attack anybody with it. So he's got one of those coming to him, whether it's just a piece of this Allen key and some resin and this knob here. In the meantime, I've got a couple of these gold ones spare whereabouts they are, but I can afford to experiment a little bit, which I will do. Alright, so there you go, just a little insight there into making things for overseas pro travelling musicians. A quick look at the Oakcaster number 18. This is an interesting one. So I inherited from Murray the Fender Modern Player MP, Fender H1 humbucker 1 Fender bridge pickup. This is renowned to be fairly low output, so I also happen to have an iron gear steam hammer, so why the hell not? So what we've also got then is the Modern Player single coil in the middle position, and then there's the Modern Player Telecaster neck, which is cool. However, we also have something else, and I can't remember what this was once. It's an iron gear something, Texas Loco or something like that. So there are some options, and we will also have some black pickup covers. I'm sure I have some black pickup covers. I have some set of new ones which I don't necessarily want to use if I don't have them. That's new anyway, so there we go. Let's see if this thing even works. I can't remember. What did it say it was? Oh, it said it was middle. Okay, well, is that fixed on? Does they come off? Well, they do come off, don't they? But it doesn't necessarily want to. There's our little sticky tabs, which we can reuse. Well, I made some of my own just now for using on the on his other pickup. I know what I mean. Anyway, yes, I did. I made some little sponge things with sticky tabs on. Okay, so we have this Modern Player covered single coil with its covered thing, and it is it wax potted? Looks of it. And we've got a thing that goes through there, and it's soldered. Is that soldered in place? I think it is actually, so I don't think this will come off willingly without desoldering this and messing it apart. So I'm not going to, having almost done it already. because this was listed as actually not bad, so given that, then actually my feeling is, why not go ahead and use it as is. We can always change it out later, it wouldn't do any harm. And actually, you know, if I could just get these out for a minute, if I could just get these out, which bizarrely I can't quite. Yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, I could just, if I could just try and remove these little things. I need a bit of a block to stand them on, or a piece of metal. Then I could see how it would sit in the cavity. Now it's the other way. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so it's a big gap, but you know, it's not so bad. We could stick these little stickies back on where they were. Something like that. Here we go. How far up? Well, again, we can, that's not actually that bad. We could put that under a lot of pressure. So look, I think that gives it a bit of class, to be honest. And then we got the middle pickup here, which is a Fender one again, but we have the option actually to get to change that out if I wanted to with a whatever this was, which I think I repaired from having been a bit injured. I was still trying to pull the cover off. I think this was an Alnico Vanson pickup, but it's fixed. I repaired it. But we have the possible of a perfect fitting, squishing down the thing a bit, a very nearly perfect fitting cover. Yeah, scrunching up the. How do you stop that doing that without ruining the wire? You don't really, do you? Sort of rustle it back into shape, you hope. So that doesn't feel like entirely wants to sit on. Okay, let's just hold fire on that. Those are some old 52s. Let's see what these iron gear spare ones feel like by comparison. Yeah, I see a bit more room there, but the spacing is wrong. Well, so we got the. I suppose there's a cover on here that we could check out. But anyway, it's not reputed to be bad at all. That's almost exact. Alright, so we do have the option. Let's stick that over there. So we've got our two original pickups. Got some spare things that can go back in that bag. I can go with that. Yeah, I've got plenty to choose from. Sorry, I'm just getting a bit lost in options here. So, to be getting on with, there is more than enough to work with for this guitar. So, I've ordered a couple of push switches, which I want for here. What I need to do, obviously this neck has been marked, but it hasn't yet been fitted for its neck bolts. I'm going to use dreaded steel ones on this. Yeah, they don't have to be. I'm risking it. I really am risking it. I need to do a couple more. I'll try and stick with the original type because they do work as long as I get the mating surfaces perfectly flat. Then we've got a spare switch which doesn't feel to be in bad nick. Iron gear. I've got this short Telecaster bridge which does away with the problem I worried about, the lack of footing just behind here. So I guess the next stage on this will be to decide. Look at that, so simple. decide on where the pots will go, and they're going to be full size pots, so I can use these as guides. But I guess the question is, where are they going to be most comfortable? Well, the full size and push, so I'll get me a red pen or something and make a blob. So I'll want to have them pointing inwards when all said and done. This one's going to have some options, so I've got to give myself enough room to work with here. It's only going to be the 2 pots, nothing else. So I need space to get them in there, and I need room to sort of solder around them. And actually that can sit and face in there because I've got a nice gap. So fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Okay, so that looks to me to be about the right sort of place. Everything's going to be done on those 2, so we're going to have, what are we going to have? We're going to have a coil split for the humbucker. We're going to have, we're going to have a Gilmore modification. We're going to have all 3 pickups on at once type of deal. So I'm going to just kind of go straight down where I see that center point. Yep. And that one there. Okay, just really by eye mainly. As long as it's in the right place, that's good. And I never get things in the wrong place, apart from this electrics cavity, which is completely in the wrong place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through with a very small drill first, I hope. And well, I say I'm going to, but I think I'm going to have to Dremel it through first. Oh look, ready-made Dremel. We'll go through the Dremel first. And that tells me the centre point, whoa, of our knobs. Now we just put our bridge on there, and then we should have, I don't, alright, so there will be a need for some knobs, and miraculously somewhere in here, we also need one of these. So let's have a container. Come on, let's do this properly. So we're going to have a jack plug socket. We're going to need some push switches, which I haven't got here yet. We're going to need 2 knobs, 2 of which I have here, and these are screw ones, which I like. So 2 of those. I guess what that means is, just FYI, they're going to sit there and there like that, and then that thing, the switch, is going to come up through there like that. So it's going to be quite a tight little bit of real estate. Not a lot of room to do it, but that's how it's going to be. So I'm not going to drill further through at this point on here because I can't remember the exact diameter of the things I'm doing. What I mean by that is I can't remember the exact diameter of the pots. Alright, so there's our humbucker, there's our neck pickup, gently placed in there. There's the Fender one put off to one side. Let's get that out of the way. And here's our 2 options, which I need to put in some sort of bag. I'm sure I will find them over here somewhere, magically. Yeah, like here and here. Useful. These all came with the bone blanks. So I also want to keep these hidden away a bit, because just mainly because they're so delicate around the where that little copper wire comes out of the pickup. So I don't mind these wires sticking out, but I want the rest of it protected until I use it. have, I'll put those in there out of the way. I'll place this one. This is our spare Vanson one, I think. Not got that much cable on it, but that's good. Okay, so that's good. That to drill. We've got our jack plug hole ready drilled. Obviously everything's got to be copper shielded, but I've got the neck to do here, and also I've done have I done a fret level on this? Yeah, I've done a fret level. I've got to put something on the back to tell myself. So really all I'm concerned about doing now is getting this drilled through and ensure the positioning is absolutely spot on, which it is. That means it's going to fit. So we have our 12mm thingy here, which is ready to go, and we want a couple of our neck thingies. Now, like I said, I did have steel ones, and I wanted to use them, but they're actually incredibly difficult to get in perpendicularly without using this sort of approach, and they required a 13mm, which I've got. It required using the 13mm drill bit, and that was kind of scary because I hadn't used that before. I don't quite know where it's sitting at the moment. It's probably in here there. Okay, so there's the 13mm. These are actually a lot shallower. Oh God, my eyeballs. But we've still grit in my eye. Ugh. So what have we got? We've got, it goes right down to just above, the point of it comes just to where it joins the fingerboard, and that how the hell does this work? That's more than enough. So probably a bit too much, but I prefer this, the screw can go, bolt can go through that. Yeah. Don't mind the bolt coming through into a space behind it. So the depth of this hole isn't as critical. It needs to be deep enough to take this piece, which in this case is only about 10mm, something like that. So we could. Now we'll go conservatively on this one. Let's have a look. That's not right. I've done this quite a few times, so there's going to be a bit of a noise in a second. So I need to change it out first. 13. You can't really see what I'm doing here on the pillar drill. It's one of the best buys I've made. Is a very cheap, surprisingly cheap pillar drill. And it's done sterling service up till now. It could be a lot better. Okay, so let's drag you across here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm lining up to give myself a good go at these holes. That's good. Just drag this off to one side so it's got a sort of counterbalance, and then all I have to really worry about is just I want to stop it rocking too far one side or the other. I'll keep it in sort of roughly perpendicular, and it's difficult to do because obviously there's a radius to the fingerboard, so the thing potentially rocks away from what we're doing, so I'll try and keep it upright. So there's the dead center of our piece, and I can fire it up. first one. They feel big compared to the other holes, because they are. Okay, so this one is now 13 as well over the side. Get it lined up. And this hasn't got the smoothest action, so it tends to move a little bit. Okay, so that's our 2 holes. Scary. Now what I'm going to want is, I've got them all here actually, everything I need is currently out of the box, so let's move that. Let's move this, get this down. Got little Morris here still in attendance, bless him, keeping guard. Okay, so this was the fun bit. So we've got 13mm, which is sort of, looks like it fits that quite nicely, but what I discovered is I've got to get this in vertically, and it's very easy because they don't have, well, they're very easy to go in. They don't have the same tapered lead in that the other ones do, so this actually wobbles and goes in at an angle very, very easily. So I have to get the glue in there and get everything kind of teed up, and do my very best to get it started square. And if I can't get it started square, if I can't get it started square, this is no good. Then, or if it starts to go off in a sort of one direction or another, then I'm obliged to stop. Otherwise, what will happen is the 2 bolts then will never meet up properly when we put the neck back in. That's probably a bit extravagant in the glue department, but right. So, cocktail stick, good old-fashioned throwaway spreader. Scary. Again, we don't want to pull too much around the bottom, because all that will happen is that it will just be in danger of just becoming a well of glue, which ultimately you don't want your screw to end up stuck in a well of glue at the bottom, but we do want sort of enough in there to get a good liberal coating, because we've got to get this to bite that extra bit. Of course, there'll be a mixture of the screw cutting, thread cutting in, as well as the glue holding it. So this is the really tricky bit. It's about how do we get this to start whilst remaining vertical, and it just doesn't have any lead in, which I think is a real pain in the arse. And there's no other, there's not even a way I can flare this out. I don't have anything that will flare this for me, to kind of help push this in. There is a bit of, what's the word? I don't know what the word is. There's a bit of, there is a thread. You can see the thread where it begins on this thing, but it's not very. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a vertical bite in my first take, and I'm using all of this just as a device to drive this thing in. And as I say, I'm just looking for verticality all the way here. Oh, crap, that's not what I wanted to do. That served me right for trying to push it over too much. Well, that should help us to start again. Thank you. Because basically, once it's lined up, it's going to start cutting physically into the wood, and I've got to make sure it's right before I go too far in. Okay. And having judged this as a 13, it's tight. and I can see that this is, it's maybe a fraction tighter than it's pulling up a little lip as it goes in, so it's tilting back a bit. So, but the only thing I can think of doing is to kind of make an adjustment like that. Yeah, it's going to go in. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on it as it goes around. Oh, it's scary stuff, I have to tell you. But then we can undo it. See, once we're in, we can undo the whole lot. And actually, right now, it obviously looks a bit worse than it is because we're shoving the entire piece right in. It's just about on the mark. Just release this and see where we get. Again, we don't want any sticking up above the surface, so we're going to carry on driving it in. But you can see it's a quite a tricky business. It's almost exactly on the mark. We can't have any sticking up. I mean, we can, because we can actually sand any off that happens to stick up. But you can see how that device there is. It's kind of like the driver for this. So it has to go all the way in, and then when it locks, then I can use it to drive downwards the last little bit of the way, which then basically will lift that, or put that nicely below the surface. Now we've got a bit of a lip here, but we'll take that off with sandpaper, and then I can do the same thing by preloading this. But it's just a shame, because if they'd have made those with a bit more of a taper, would have found that a lot easier. I'm just going to redistribute some of this glue closer to the exit. Yeah, it's they've made it harder to do without see, it tries to bite in but doesn't want to go. Trying to do it with something that gets a little bit in and just ensures that we're as straight as we can be before going any further. Nope. You see how it's not wanting to bite that first, take that first sort of grip. It's not ideal. That's why you can see I just preferred to go on to go back to the original zinc alloy ones, but the zinc alloy ones, I'm going to bend this and try and basically force it into straightness. The zinc alloy ones, see, this is ripping the wood. The zinc alloys were very conveniently tapered. So this is cutting the thread badly at the moment. It'll hold once we get it in there. It's making it straight, that's the problem. And all but for the want of a taper, really. That's a stupid thing. It's for the lack of a taper that England was lost. So I'm making some little splits in the surface of the wood there, which I'll have to sand back. And I can see this is not vertical at this point. It's tilting slightly forward, which I can't really do much about, other than put it under some load now as I go round. See, it's really iffy. Yeah, it's why, given my time again, I might have plumped for the whatchamacallit. Yeah, the alloys. just found they were too weak, you see. So this, I don't want this to end up costing me. I don't want this to cost me 27 quid in a neck, but if it has to, it has to. And if I have to learn my lesson. Come on. A bit more of a push. More. And then a bit of sanding off, because you can see it causes a bit of a, oh that's crap. Now I think I'm going to have to write this off. Damnation. That is an absolute bummer. What a bummer. Okay, fed up with that. I think we're going to have to write this off and just settle for the original alloys. It's caused too much stress for my liking. Damn it. Well, we've got one here that's waiting to go, and I'm going to have to do that one with alloys as well, the zinc alloy I should say. Oil buggers. So much easier. Look at that, I'll just whiz in because it's already pre-cut. So I'm going to have to clean these holes out. I'm going to have to shove in some what am I going to shove in? I'm going to have to clean this out with some stuff, probably water, and then I've got to put some resin in there. Oh well, didn't really think that was going to work very well. I mean, it's possible that if I could get a slightly larger drill size, but 14 is too big and 13 is clearly a tiny fraction too small. Damnation. It's all for the want of steel. Because I want steel. I'm fussy for steel, man. Well, what I'll end up doing now with this one is I'm going to have to clean out these, put some resin in there and do it all down flush, and the resin will hold it. Truth is, it's really doesn't have to be that strong because it holds a lot of it's got a lot of gripping power, but these damn steel ones, they've got to be bigger, or else they just won't work at all. Well, the hole's got to be a bit bigger. And apart from sort of waggling that 13mm around to make it work, I don't think there's much of an option. So, let's have a look. There's a tiny little split that made there, which I'm going to squeeze some glue into. Morris has abandoned me. He knew I was doing bad. Might as well just take care of these things while I get a chance. Seems to have gone quite nicely into whatever gap was there, and then a bit down in there. shove some into. Might as well, I mean, it might be rescuable. What I want is a flat piece now and a clamp. For a minute or two. Leave that grabbed on there for a minute. Right, okay, well, as you can see, we've got the alternative neck, which is kind of ready to go, which in a way gives it a more of a available for sale in the US possibility. So to do that, that means I'm going to get a shot of the 13 mils and go back to a 12 mil drill bit. And get on and take care of that. That's a bit too low, so I'm just going to piece of tape around that. Yeah, the maple means I have some option to sell it outside of the Great Britain and the EU. There we go. Whereas the rosewood basically means we're stuck. I'm going to shorten that a bit as well. Yeah, the rosewood means we can't, because of the CITES regulations, we can't sell it to the US. So if I have a chance of such a sale, which I would like to. Okay, that'll do. Start again. Do this reasonably quickly. Balance roughly right. Let's give me a lift it up fraction. Sorry about this boring video, but yeah, right. So we're going to just drill down. Now this one has already got a bit of a hole, so I'm guessing this one to start. Back to 12 mils and the old style fittings, eh? C'est la vie. Fine. Right, we'll worry about that one in a minute. Just go back to this one. And so this one plays a similar game, but this one is so much easier. A, because these are tapered. B, because you can shove them straight in like that. And C, because something or other. But on the downside, if this heel here isn't absolutely flat, what you get, and also, by the way, if you use a shim, what you find is the space that the shim creates, if you use one, these things pull out really quickly. So this is, for some reason, because this is obviously on a thing like this, you can see I can gauge the uprightness of this quite a lot easier, and then just put it up here, and it's fairly old, tried and tested tech, and in it goes, and it's pretty familiar. Let me get this nice and low, flush with the surface, and to be honest, if that isn't flush, then we can take the difference off with a little bit of a file. We get it as far as we can, but this is where the zinc alloy runs the risk of splitting, so it's better to probably leave a bit to be sanded than it is to over stress it and end up with the housing. The bit that splits, by the way, is just the top bit where the Allen key goes, and usually it leaves you with the rest of the bit, the threaded bit that you really need, usually goes in and is quite safely kind of seated. But you can see that's just so much less worrying than the other one. So we're kind of, this thing is, at the moment, it's in playing a game of self-selecting really. Now obviously I'm not going to do this up in any mega way, because what I don't want to do is pull out these things yet. But what I want to do is just check them visually. Actually, more than just check them visually, I want to drop in one of these fillers and see how they feel. I'm hoping that everything's aligned beautifully as it should be, which it is, and then you should get a bit of a pull and you can feel it going in, roughly speaking, kind of alright. I'm not going to do it tight, I'll just do it enough to hold the thing in place for now. So there we have our, do we have our thing in place? It will pull in a little bit more when we're done. This is okay, this flat, what surprised me slightly is that there is a little bit of a curve on the front here because I sanded it down. Okay, so this is cool for now. There you go. Obviously I'm not gonna, there's a few washers in there, I don't quite know how many, and maybe too many for what we need right now, hence they're sitting out. But anyway, that's the basis. So kind of, yeah, self-selecting really. You can hang there, my friend. You've done the job, you've worked. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for tonight. Oh, actually no, I'm not. What I'm going to do is, before I stop, I'm going to give this a little sand down with a block. But, and when I've done that, I'm going to just reset some new whatsits with a couple of these new, couple of the, you know what I mean, bushings, threaded inserts. Gonna sort those out with, put some 2-pack resin in there. Okay, and there'll be plenty of room, so it's not going to be over tight this time. So it really is a matter of leaving this dry for a good long period of time. And even having done that, it may not be enough, so I'm kind of prepared for that fact. We sort of gonna aim for a sort of some enough around the sides of it to sort of fill it out really, but obviously what we don't want it to do is come flying up the inside of the insert. So for those purposes, I'll get 2 of these things out. What I really would need to do then is to put some tape across the bottom of these, and actually I have a feeling that a bit of this would be a good idea, by way of trying to stop it, stop this resin coming back up. And obviously these aren't going to be very big pieces of sticky tape, but see if I can just make enough. Well, that wasn't very good. Stuck to the ruler. That sort of does the job. So that's the idea, just to get that on the top there. Maybe fix it down. Just sort of. Maybe just if there's any left over. I don't mind that being on the bottom because we can screw that out of the way when it comes to it. But what it will help me do, my plan, is that it will stop. Done it again. What it will do is it will stop any resin coming back up and messing up the thread on this thing, because that's the really important bit, preserving this inside thread. So like I say, we just need it as a sort of protective sheath. You get what I mean? Think so? Yeah, I get it. I reckon so. Obviously that then doesn't allow air to come through, but there's going to be plenty of room. Right, so here we go. Let's mix up our get out of jail resin like we always do. Now, the first thing is, you can see that these kind of, they're not exactly, they don't fall totally into it, so they, that 1mm isn't the end of the world, doesn't quite accommodate these little sort of wings on the side of these things, but it's close to it. So I guess what we're really going to be looking for is to, I think we're going to need to just sort of paste some around the edges of this. Now, having said that, it then falls off and gets very messy, like that. Now, what I don't want to have happen is for all of this to come flying out. So what I could also do, while I'm at it, is use this cocktail stick to just give me a kind of coating around the edge. I suppose in a way to just try and get some of this to bite into the, I keep breaking these sticks. They're good fun, but they're not that strong. They're cocktail party sticks. I'm having a party here. Don't worry about the surface here, we can clean that off afterwards. Like I say, it's just about kind of getting some traction on the sides of this, a bit of bulk but also some traction on the sides of this shaft. Right, so we've got loads glooping around everywhere. So first one, I'm going to kind of line it up there, and it pretty much falls all the way in without much protest. But it's really easy and straightforward, and the question is, maybe it will bite, maybe it won't. But it don't look too bad as a first repair attempt. Quite encouraged at the moment. And then sort of similar glooping with this around the edges, and then sort of spoon it into there as well. I suppose because it's a bigger hole, you can see it's just like straight in, no messing about. Now the truth is, how much strength that will have with just sitting in some gripping, realistic gripping resin is anybody's guess. But, and I can actually sink this a little bit lower now, since it's not going to go anywhere. In a way, this thing now could drop back in and try it out, but I think it's going to need a good old sit down and dry off if we're going to stand any chance of it working at all. So, learned a lesson. That 13mm drill in maple is still not a big enough hole, and I'm going to have to either, I'm going to do some tests, but I'm going to have to drill out or over drill somehow to make it work. Otherwise it's just going to split the headstocks and we're just going to waste money. But we were lucky on this guitar, we had a choice of two anyway. So there you go. That's it for today. We're done. Morris is going to have to go back home. Just for fun, I'm not going to leave this done up because I don't quite know if it's pulled. If it has pulled the threaded inserts out, then it won't do me any good because it will just let them set in that place, which I don't want. So I'm going to check out whether they have or not, and if they're still nice and flush, then we'll just leave them to dry unmolested along with that one. I bet they aren't pulled through at all. They'll be nice and smooth. They're absolutely perfect, so that's really good. So they can just sit and dry. What I can do with this one, which I haven't done, is just check whether it's actually even in alignment, because we don't know. But yeah, you can see it is straight away. So again, I won't over stress it. I'll just pull it out and leave it dry in its own good time. So that's it for today. Everything good and sorted. See you again shortly. Okay, so I'm back with the strap buttons on and the little Oakcaster number 18, and this one is a versatile little beastie. Having wired it up and got, so I wired it up with the intention of having HSS with a split here for parallel and series, just to change the kind of tone of it. So that was the split, or the switch between these two coils in series or parallel, either or, was on one of the pots, and then the next push on this pot was to switch on, I think it's the bridge pickup, in permanently on with a various combination of other, and I've forgotten what the combination is now. So what we got is a pretty meaty humbucker. Now that is in, I think that's in the parallel, and you click this and it gets a bit meatier. That goes into the series, parallel, series. So that's the sound of the humbucker, and that's an iron gear steam hammer. Steam hammer? Yeah. So sorry, I'm a bit out of tune. A little bit of sandpapering to do there. Don't worry about that for a minute. So that's the sound of the humbucker in series or thingy. Now this is where it gets interesting. So let's ignore the humbucker for a minute. Let's flip up to the neck pickup, which, as you can hear, is very spanky telly. And that's cool. So you've got spanky telly with tone, which I managed to wire backwards. Don't worry about that, it's quirky. So nice rolling, nice tangible acting tone. So you've got the tone on telly on the neck pickup. Then you go to neck and middle. Theoretically, quite rightly, nothing happens on this thing because that's only switching in series down here. So we've got neck, and then we've got neck and middle, middle, familiar single coil sound. Now this is where it gets quirky at the moment, because next should be, the next position, position 4, should be this and this, whether in series or in parallel. But what's happened is, because these two are Fender pickups and this is an iron gear, the wiring here is, or the polarity of the pickups of the iron gears is different to the, yeah, same thing. Polarity of the Fenders is different from the polarity of the iron gear, which means you get a scooped sound, which I think is quite interesting. And then what happens is you can have that thin little Brian May sound, or you can switch the humbucker, which is currently misaligning the polarity, so it goes into that scooped sound, or then you can switch it to parallel, which adds a bit more beef to that scooped sound. Which is really interesting. Now I haven't even got onto this knob yet. So anyway, we know we've got that scoop sound. Then we go back to the humbucker, which we can send into series or parallel. So, okay, now that's interesting. That's just a little bit too shallow. Need to dig that nut slot a bit deeper. So I hit that off the slot and detuned it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I didn't cut it deep enough, but that's okay. Anyway. Note to self. Early days. Okay. So that's just worrying about the series and parallel down here. So then what happens is, let's go. Okay. So that's parallel with it out. Then we go into neck. We have in, we have neck on its own, out we have neck and something else, which is probably neck and this humbucker, which is why it's sounding scooped. Okay, so that's a mismatch. It'll change again when I rewire this. so neck and that. Next one, that's now middle in that one. So that has okay. That's put neck, middle, and that one on. Sorry, neck, middle, and the Dave Gilmour mod. That one on. Sounds thin. Push that in. Takes that one out of the equation, which riches up these two. Goes back to this sound. Put that one up. Mismatches the polarity. Adds that one in. Mismatches the polarity. Thickens it up by changing it to parallel instead of series. Anyway, as you can see, that's a bit too complicated for my liking, although it's interesting and it gives you a whole load of things to play with, which I find quite interesting actually. I mean, I think I have a feeling I might regret it once I've wired it properly, but you never know. I guess what you'll get when you have a conflict in polarity, you'll have a different, a radically more different tone, you know. And given you've got so many alternatives anyway, you've got two sets of 5. Well, I can't even add it up. It just gets ridiculous with 2 push pots. So you've got a load of options, and I quite like having the ability to throw in a really thin sound that you can thicken up. Humbucker in any position, with that out, it goes into thin. So it gets louder because I'm taking the additional humbucker, the Dave Gilmour mod, out. So there you go. Anyway, that's just a quick sort of listen. I've got to obviously tweak the nut a bit more. I'm just looking at the lacquer on here. I want to just dull that off a little bit. It's a little bit too shiny for my liking. But apart from that, I'm amazed everything's working. Well, it's working. And it's fun to play. Got a little bit of tweaking to do, but in principle, I really like how it's going. What I'm going to do is do those tweaks to this action, and then the next thing I'm going to do is reset it up again with this neck on. So I've got 2 options on the same guitar, which means I can offer it for sale overseas. Horrible sounding creaky strap, please forgive that. But what I like about this is how Telecaster this thing is because of that. And you know, there's the old tone wood argument, people going on about how, you know, the Telecaster is the sum total of the wood and the pickup, but this is got the telly tone and a real nice mixture of things. So it's just incredible that everything gets to the nth degree more complicated as soon as you put in you put on a third pickup. You have this, obviously, this huge range more things you can do, and then the minute you add one push push switch, you add a whole bunch of complexity to it, and then of course if you add a second one, it kind of multiplies the number of options even more, so it starts to get silly. But I do instinctivly, I quite like the range of things on this straight away. Now this is a light guitar, it's 4 pounds in weight, and weighed it yesterday, so it's going to be about the same either way. Now I think it's a really lightweight thing, and it's just balanced nicely on the strap. This one's a bit of a shiny strap, so it kind of wants to sit. And if I jiggle around too much, the head does go down eventually. And these are smaller tuners, which I'm not the greatest fan of. They're not quite as delicate and subtle in operation as the 19:1 ratio ones I prefer, but they do add quite a bit of extra weight. So I've gone for the lighter weight in this case, because I know that there's a lot of wood taken out of here, and there's quite a lot of wood taken out of the cavity. If we're going to have a look in here, a quick look, magnetically closed, by the way. So here we have the wiring I'm going to be acquainted with again shortly, but it's, you know, it's quite a handful in there. But you know, thanks to Rickard's help, just a couple of little tweaks to my wiring plan along the way, we should get there. But yeah, anyway, so that's that one. So I guess I'm going to hang it up for a minute and do some tweaks. Oh, of course, you can see that it's got the 2-bolt neck fitting, same old Reloved Guitars. Quick release, quick reassemble, and of course, because of the nature of the bridge on this one, is a sort of short telly bridge, which kind of is in keeping with this pickup choice. It gives it a, you know, it's pretty easy to take the neck off, travel, put the neck back on, restring it, and this action won't change. You know, you have to really fiddle with those little grub screws to make it change. So it's a return to playing action is very good on this, like all of the Reloved Guitars Oakcasters. That's one of the things I've concentrated on most of all. Yeah, so there we go. So I'll show you when I've redone it and tweaked a few things. I'll show you, I'll play the other range of tones, and I hope I don't regret changing it back. That's the main thing, but we shall see.